Isis the Magician in Greek and Coptic papyri. The magical power of Isis, of 1,000 names, Mythologies, derives mainly from the power that belongs to the god of the word, Hermes, her teacher. In a formula that asks for a vision in a dream taken from the great bilingual scroll of Leiden, Osiris and Isis are invoked as the father and mother of Hermes. I entreat you, by your father Osiris and by Isis your mother, show me a form of yourself and make known your oracle on what I desire. As in the Eritology, where she is proclaimed to be both the mother and the daughter of the same god, Isis the Magician, mother of Hermes in the Leiden scroll, is also said to be his daughter in the Paris Codex. Yes, of all magicians, I, Hermes the Elder, I, the father of Isis, as in the writings of Plutarch, Moralia. This Hermes the Elder, that is, Thoth the Great, father of Isis, stands in opposition to the young Hermes, her son, that is, Horus Harpocrates. Searching for her brother and husband Osiris, Isis finds him with the help of a magical formula of 29 letters taken from a sacred book of the archive of Hermes. A scarab and an Isis must be engraved one above the other on the emerald of a ring of Hermes, which serves to know all things. Hermes remains the constant protector and benefactor of Isis, in the love charm of Astram Sucius in the form of a bond, Philatro Katadismos. The magician entreats Hermes by enumerating the multiple figures of his manifestations and the titles to which he has a right. Among these, the supplicant reminds him that he had been of help to Isis. Since it is true that Isis, the greatest of all the divinities, invoked you amidst all dangers, in all places, against the gods, men, demons, animals of the waters and of the land, and since she obtained your favour and victory over the gods, men, and all the animals who live beneath the earth, therefore I, a mere mortal, invoke you in the same way. Favour me also with good appearance, beauty. Answer my prayers, Hermes, benefactor, inventor. A charm of success and invocation contained in the great magical papyrus of Paris is said to have been composed by Hermes himself in honour of wandering Isis. This charm is called Little Beggar, Epitarion, because it consists of modelling in beeswax a beggar with a bag, a stick and an apron, who must stand like Isis on a globe around which a serpent is coiled. Each part of his anatomy corresponds to a series of incantations, breathing magical power into the figurine. In the final formula of the performance, Isis is called the widow and Horus the orphan. It is by their names that the magician summons this talisman to himself. Placed in an attic or in any other room of a house, this figurine of Hermes will bring luck, success and wealth. But the multiple names and forms, polymorphos, of Isis the magician also derive from her ability to assimilate the forms and functions of the two goddesses of the moon and the earth. In an amulet, Isis is invoked during a sacrifice, consisting of sulphur and the seeds of reeds from the Nile to the moon, as she who permitted the good daemon, Agathos daemon, to rule over the entire black land, Teleon Melan, that is, the land of Egypt fertilized by the floodwaters. She thus assimilates herself to the lunar Artemis, and her name is associated in a series of magic words to the star Sothis, Sirius, to Bastet, the goddess of Bubastis, who, according to Herodotus, corresponds to Artemis, to the goddess of Buto, who for the Greeks was Leto, Latona, the mother of Artemis, and finally to Nemesis Andrasteia, Nemesis Adrastea, another name for Artemis, Suidas, whom a Hermetic treatise calls the one who watches over the universe with piercing eyes, Kore Cosmo. In the great tablet of conjuration addressed to the moon, Selene, Mene, Hecate, of the great Codex of Paris, the magician enumerates the names and titles of the goddess of night, and then, to force her to comply, he tells her of an impiety of the one for whom the evil spell is destined. Unleash your rage, virgin, against him, the enemy of the gods of the sky, of Helios Osiris, and of his wife Isis. In the first of the magic papyruses of Oslo, to make his love charm, a gauge, efficacious and to constrain the goddess, the supplicant attributes a sacrilegious act to the girl he desires, in this case an offering of eggs that do not conform to the ritual, at which Isis cries out aloud and the world is stricken by shock. She tosses on her holy bed and her bonds are broken, as are those of the demonic tribe. Isis and Osiris are thus invoked along with all earthly and subterranean demons who come from the abyss, so that the girl in question will lose sleep, fly through the air, and starving, thirsty, no longer able to sleep, come to fit her vulva around the organ of the supplicant. But it is primarily in the tablet of conjuration of the Paris Codex that the reciprocity of power between Isis and Selene is affirmed. The magician declares to the moon, in an invocation in a text that is rather uncertain, but that can be translated as follows: "Fix your eyes on yourself. It is the beauty of Isis that you will admire in the mirror, if you watch yourself before your eyes begin to spit out a black light." The prayer of consecration of the sacrifice of perfumes to the moon, which serves as the love charm of Claudianos, calls Isis by the great magical names of the goddess who embraces all, who conducts the workings of the world, that is, the celestial and lunar Aphrodite. It is very significant that in the same charm one finds associated, next to Isis, the names of three infernal divinities, Ortho, Balbo, and Ereshkigal. Henceforth, because of her lunar conjunction, Isis becomes a chthonic power. In a magic hymn inserted by some ancient editors into the Homeric invocation of the dead in the Odyssey, itself already an interpolation, the chthonic power of Isis, among other divinities and demons of people of the dead, was invoked by Odysseus when he visited hell. The rhetor, Julius Africanus, recorded these pseudo-Homeric verses in his Kestoi, from which they were taken by the transcriber. "Listen to me, you who are kind and protective, Anubis of generous seed. Listen also, astute and secret wife, you who saved Osiris. Hear, greedy Hermes. Hear, subterranean Zeus of the beautiful curls." Isis protects the tombs. Whoever violates them risks incurring her punishment. A love charm to bring someone to oneself, a gauge, contained in the Greek magical book of Paris, works through the intervention of heroes and gladiators killed in combat, or anyone else who died a violent death. The prayer recited during the sacrifice of perfumes invokes the chthonic aspect of Hermes and of Hecate, the demons of the dead, the goddesses of destiny, Moirae, and of revenge, Poenai. And then one reads the following formula: Isis went away, carrying on her shoulders her bedmate, her brother. But Zeus came down from Olympus and stayed to wait for the spirits of the dead who were going to a woman's house to accomplish the task in question. That is, the submission of the girl to her lover. The goal of the spell is to cause the woman to be as much in love as Isis was. Celestial and subterranean, above and below. Isis also occupies the intermediary space as a goddess of fertility. This terrestrial Isis appears in a formula of consecration of a magic ring contained in the bilingual scroll of Leiden. On the jasper intaglio, an Ouroboros snake is engraved. In the middle of the snake is a moon with 2 stars on the ends of its points, surmounted by a sun named Abraxas. In the formula of consecration that accompanies the ritual, the magician begins by invoking in the second person the celestial and infernal gods. Then in the first person he evokes the power and the magical virtues of the ring. I am the plant called the palm branch. I am the flow of blood from the palm branches, which comes from the tomb of the great Osiris. I am the god that no one can see or name thoughtlessly. I am the sacred phoenix. I am Crates the saint, also called Marmareoth. I am Helios, who makes the light appear. I am Aphrodite, also called Typhi. I am the saint of blowing winds. I am Kronos, who makes the light appear. I am the mother of the gods, called Sky. I am Osiris, who is called Water. I am Isis, who is called Dew. I am Isis Nephthys, who is called Spring. I am Idolos, who resembles true images. I am Sushos, who resembles the crocodile. According to the formula of a magic hymn of the Paris Codex, Isis is the earth that drinks the dew and is fertilized. Associated with water, dew, and the spring sap, the goddess of the Nile, with the cornucopia and the ore, thus represents the Earth Mother, fertilizing the lands of Egypt with the waters of the flood. The same statue of Isis is embossed with a formula to be used in gathering plants. For each plant he digs up, the magician who specializes in herbs carries out a purification ritual in which he sprinkles natron, uses kifi and pine resin as incense, and uses milk as a libation. The ritual is accompanied by a prayer which invokes the diverse titles of the demon to whom the plant is consecrated. You were planted by Kronos, conceived in the womb of Hera, preserved from all evil by Ammon, born of Isis, nourished by rainy Zeus, and raised to maturity by Helios, Osiris, and the dew, Isis. You are the dew of all the gods. You are the heart of Hermes. You are the seed of the ancestral gods. You are the eye of Helios. You are the light of Selene. You are the ashes of Osiris. You are the beauty and the glory of Uranus. You are the soul of the demon of Osiris, which dances everywhere, and you are the breath of Ammon. The pan-cosmic position of Isis, mistress of life and protector of the dead, determines her curative ability to grasp the sympathies and antipathies that calm or trouble people. Her curative power is invoked in a recipe against stomachache. Contained in a Coptic magical papyrus of Berlin. Horus hunts down a falcon that he cuts up without a knife, cooks without a fire, and eats without salt. Sick and unable to sleep, he sends a demon to tell his mother in Heliopolis. The demon finds her wearing her helmet and busily lighting a fire on a copper stove. Isis then gives the messenger the recipe. Incant either her true name that carries the sun to the west, the moon to the east, and the 6 propitiatory stars subject to the sun, or the 300 blood vessels surrounding the navel. Isis at the oven, regulator of the stars and of the microcosm, and thus the ruler of the culinary, cosmic, and somatic orders, is entirely capable of giving anyone who has strayed from the norm the power to return to it, and protect oneself from the bad demon who can cause the failure of a request for a vision in a state of vigil, autopatos. A recipe from the magical Greek book of Paris recommends the use, as an amulet, of a piece of veil from a stone Harpocrates. On the piece of cloth, the theurgist, who identifies himself with Horus, writes with ink made of myrrh the name of the son of Isis and Osiris, or Soranophris, Then he rolls some of the plant called sempervivum in the cloth and ties up the bundle with 7 threads of the linen of Anubis. The amulet is worn around the neck for the duration of the magical procedure, poiesis. Whether she is invoked as ruler, curia in ocular requests, in imprecations, or in phylacteric formulas, Isis the Doctor remains above all the consoler and patron of lovers. In a Coptic charm from the Carl Schmidt collection, it is while encircled by her 7 young girls and from the interior of her temple of Harbin, where she gives her oracles, that she carries the potion and the amulet of healing to her tearful adept, who is identified with Horus. In the following charm on parchment, the adept evokes the 7 young girls of the goddess who are seated next to a fountain and complains of his beloved who did not want to receive his kiss. Again, to bring a little rest and relief to the suffering of a lover, a Coptic magical papyrus invokes the celestial Isis, who rules over the sun, the moon, and the Pleiades, and the infernal Isis descended from the Nuon with her sister Nephthys to look for Osiris. The true object of the charm is to bring drowsiness and sleep to whoever burns with love, that is, to satisfy his immediate sexual desires so that his health can be restored. In Greek papyri, the love spell would not attempt primarily to heal the sufferer, but to punish the woman who is causing his illness, by transmitting to her the same illness from which he is suffering, insomnia. The myth of Isis and Osiris furnishes the material for 2 invocatory formulas from the cryptogram that is preserved in the library of the University of Michigan. The first formula of constraint is addressed in all likelihood to Isis Pronoia. In the form of a veiled threat, it attempts to force the divinity to accomplish the goal of the recipe. If his wish is granted, the reciter, an adept of Isis who knows the secrets, Krypta, that is, the multiple magic names of the goddess, commits himself, a promise that in fact hides a constraining threat, to let the sun, Helios Osiris, rise and set as it wishes, to save the body of Osiris, to not break the ties that bind to Theos, to not kill Ammon, Osiris, to not scatter the limbs of Osiris, and to hide Osiris and allow him to escape from the giants. The second formula of constraint is also directed to Isis, so that the goddess is forced to tell her adept that his request has been granted. Isis, pure virgin, give me the sign that you will let me know that the task has been accomplished. Uncover your sacred peplos. Shake off the black tyche that clothes you. Put the constellation of the bear into motion. Thus constrained, Isis sends a sign of her celestial and astral nature. For the sake of the adept, the magician describes it as follows. The goddess will detach from her bosom the end of one of her hands. You will see a star shoot towards you. Look at it without fear. It will shoot out of itself and aim at you like an arrow, a magical sign, character, which will erupt inside you, in such a way that you will be possessed by the goddess. Keep this sign as an amulet, since it comes from the goddess. It is the sign of Kronos and will fill you with courage. The procedure ends with the standard directions: to thank the goddess, magic words to address the stars, to avoid any rebellion or any change in their good intentions, and a last invocation to Isis Pronoia to call on her to act right away. Under the tutelage of her instructor Hermes, Isis is the inventor of philters, a potion with a base of olive oil, beet juice, and leaves of the olive tree, whose name is recommended by the first of the 2 love charms of the bilingual papyrus of the British Museum, is called Mucus of Isis. You are olive oil, and you are not olive oil, but rather the sweat of the good demon, the mucus of Isis, the maxim of Helios, the power of Osiris, the grace of the gods. I unleash you to descend upon a certain woman, the daughter of a certain woman, make her blind so that she no longer knows where she is. Set her loins on fire that she will come to me, so she will love me always, and so that she is unable to drink or eat, so that she will come to me, so that she will love me always. The name of Isis Sophis, Sisysoth, written on the skin of a donkey with blood from the womb of a catfish, mixed with juice from the plant of Serapis, constitutes an efficacious and infallible love charm that works the same way. In another spell from the same Oslo papyrus entitled Little Key to the Vulva, Fusakleidion, it is recommended that the one in love smear his organ with a mixture of honey, a crow's egg, plantain juice, and the bile of a ray, while reciting the following prayer: I declare to you, womb of my woman, spread yourself and receive the sperm of this man. May this woman love me for all her life as Isis loved Osiris, and may she stay as chaste for me as Penelope was for Odysseus. To provoke discord between a man and a woman, the enmity between Typhon and Isis is cited, as in this malevolent spell, which from the bilingual scroll of Leiden, which is suitable to be written on an earthenware fragment of a vessel for curing food. Opposed to the godless, Atheos, Typhon, Horus is also invoked in love charms, as in this recipe for opening a door using the umbilical cord of a firstborn ram that has not yet touched the earth. After having burnt myrrh and purified the cord with the smoke emitted from it, the suppliant who speaks in the name of Horus inserts the cord into the lock while reciting the formula for opening first in Coptic and then in Greek. Myrrh is particularly effective in magic for love. A recipe used to attract someone from the same papyrus of Oslo advises the lover to make use of myrrh by throwing it on the flat part of an oven and, while it is being consumed, to recite a prayer enumerating the titles of nobility of the personified fruit of the balsam. Myrrh, you who are at the service of gods and who move rivers and mountains, you who set fire to the swamp of Achalda and burn the godless Typhon, you who are the battle companion of Horus, the protector of Anubis and the leader of Isis, just as I throw you, myrrh, on the turning platform of this oven so that you are consumed, so you too consume my woman, because I entreat you out of powerful and inexorable necessity. Rouse yourself, myrrh, set out for all places and begin your search for my woman. Open her right thigh, penetrate her like thunder, like lightning, like a burning flame, make her weak, pale, sickly, anemic, her whole body disarmed, so that to escape from her plight she will come to me, this man, son of a certain woman, right away, quickly, quickly. Because she is the one who loves most, Isis is above all the goddess of love charms. She too has known the dramas of separation and adultery. A charm preserved in Coptic and the Greek magical codex of Paris evokes the infidelity of Osiris. Isis is the one who comes from the mountains at noon in the summer, a dusty young girl with tears in her eyes while her heart is filled with sobs. Her father, Thoth the Great, Hermes the Elder in the Greek interpretation, rushes to her and Isis tells him that Osiris is deceiving her with her sister Nephthys. Thoth advises her to go to the south of Thebes to see Belph the blacksmith, so that he can make her a key that she must soak in the blood of Osiris. At first meant to be used by women, this charm was adapted so it could be used by men. With this sham curse, Let her drink, eat, sleep with another. I will put a spell on her heart, on her breath, on her 3 holes. But above all, I will put a spell on her vulva, into which I want to penetrate until she comes to me. And I know what is in her heart, what she has done, what she is thinking of now, right away, right away. Isis, who heals bodies and consoles hearts, can also reactivate a defective magic tool or rid a place of nuisances, to restore oracular power to a skull that has become mute. A recipe from the Greek magic book of Paris advises sealing its opening with scum from the doors of a temple of Osiris and with dirt from a barrow. Then to cold hammer a hobble, to make a signet ring from it, on which will be engraved a female cat grasping the head of a gorgon, and a headless lion who wears a crown of Isis instead of a head, and whose right foot rests on the skull of a skeleton. To obtain the blessing of a good demon on a place, a recipe from the same magic book advises using Tyrrhenian wax to form a statuette of a 3-headed god. In the middle is the head of a sparrowhawk wearing the crown of Horus. To the right, the head of a dog-headed god wearing a crown of Hermanubis, and to the left, the head of an ibis wearing a crown of Isis. The statuette must have the clothing of Osiris, and must be placed in a little temple made of juniper at the place that one wants to bless. Then comes the ritual, the sacrifice of an onaga and a libation of milk, and the incantatory prayer to the angel of the place, who is assimilated to the good demon and to the Aeon, bestower of riches. What Isis has bound together by her magic powers is indivisible and forever indissoluble. A Coptic recipe for tying up a dog invokes her for this purpose. I bind the sky, I bind the earth, I bind the sun to the east, so that it can no longer rise. I bind the moon to the west, so it can no longer rise. I bind the rain, so it no longer falls to the ground. I bind the cultivated earth, so it no longer produces. I change the sky into bronze. I change the earth into iron. No human lineage belonging to the race of Adam and to the complete creation of Zoe, Eve, can undo the bonds that I have tied or the charm that I have written. The effectiveness of a formula of constraint directed at the demon of the dead and cited in a love charm comes from the fact that it was written and recited by Isis when she was bringing back Osiris and restoring his dismembered limbs, which Asclepius himself, aided by Hebe, was unable to do. Similarly, the amulet from the Coptic magical papyrus of London cited above, used to tie up a dog, is said to have been written by Isis herself. She alone, the inventor of philters, has the power to put an end to the effects of her spells. Binding and unbinding according to the wishes of her adepts, Isis is the ruler of magic. Because she is the universal ruler, the mistress of the 3 worlds, celestial, terrestrial, and subterranean, and thus is herself able to control the elements that attract or combat one another. But, set in place by her myths and her rituals, she traverses papyri without being the object of a particular esoteric over-evaluation. This point distinguishes her from her Greek neighbour Hecate. For Isis, magic remains one function among others. For Hecate, it is a state of being.